The final influence on price that we're going to consider are legal and ethical considerations. So we've looked at the other three factors that help influence price, but as we've said, can we just do anything? And in fact, there's lots of regulations that mean there are constraints on what we can do in terms of pricing, and of course they are for the benefit of the consumer. So fundamentally these are determined by the government. In Australia we have the ACCC and the Competition and Consumer Act, which have outlined a number of laws, regulations about what people can do in terms of price. Now what we can't do in terms of price are things like price fixing. So we spoke in the previous section of this lesson about oligopolistic competition. The idea that potentially, and what it is illegal to do in Australia, is for competitors to get together and agree to have the price higher than would occur in an actually open competition situation. Now this could happen on a small scale with some local businesses getting together, or it could happen on a national or even global scale, and you might have large manufacturers getting together and agreeing that they would keep prices at a certain level. But that's illegal, and if the organisations get found out, there are heavy penalties imposed on them. Price discrimination is interesting because from a marketing perspective, we're always talking about segmentation, and that different segments in the marketplace want different things, and we use the marketing mix to give them different things. And price is one of those elements. But there's also laws against discriminating against price on the basis of kind of spurious characteristics or conditions. Now, an interesting example is that we know women pay more to get their hair cut than men do. Is that an example of discrimination, or is that an example of really effective segmentation? Now, I actually don't have very high maintenance hair. I have long hair and I just get it cut straight across the bottom. So from a time perspective, it actually takes less time to get my hair cut than it does for a lot of men, because they have short hair and they have to have different elements of the hair cut in different ways.
30 seconds for this one. Sorry, continue, Erica.
So it's an interesting area where it's illegal to discriminate, but actually proving that it's a discriminatory pricing compared to segmentation is a challenging area. Now, deceptive pricing. It's when organisations put forward a price that doesn't really represent the true cost of the product. So it could be that they advertise a really cheap price and you go in to buy that product and they say, oh, there's no more available, you'll have to buy an alternative. And in fact, they didn't actually have the cheaper products available to begin with. It could be that you go to buy something like a $99 airfare, but when you actually have to pay for the product, there's fees and taxes and baggage allowances and all these things added on top of it. So it's actually not a $99 fare. And this kind of brings us nicely into the idea of pricing information as well. And there's all kinds of laws about what has to be revealed to people in terms of the price, that they have to be able to discover the total price of the product. Now we find in supermarkets that they have to, they're encouraged to talk about unit pricing and unit labelling, so you can compare the price of a 3-litre bottle of soft drink to a 600ml bottle of soft drink and know what you're paying per litre for that product. So all of these kinds of things are about the legal and ethical considerations. Now, we're not teaching you business law in this unit, and we don't expect you to know the intricacies of these things, but be reassured that we have these things in place that stop you as a consumer from getting ripped off. And certainly if you want to know more about it, and as good consumers, we really encourage you to actually have a look at some of the things that the ACCC does and the Competition and Consumer Act.